Welcome to Please Me, the award-winning bilingual sexuality podcast bringing you bold conversations and big clit energy. Sí, Please Me tiene subtítulos en español. I'm thrilled to announce that Please Me is the #1 ranked sexuality podcast in the USA and worldwide. And welcome to Season 6. I'm Eve, your host, on a journey from trauma to sexual liberation. Join me and my guests as we dive into conversations around orgasm equality, self-love, body positivity, and essential sex education. Let's reclaim pleasure and close the orgasm gap, one empowering conversation at a time. Last week's two-part episode is a must-listen for anyone curious about non-surgical male enhancement. Prevention is powerful, especially when it comes to sexual health concerns like erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation, which impacts over 50% of men by age 50. Tune in and take a proactive approach to both your general health and your sexual wellness today. Miss my webinar, Let's Talk Length, Girth, and Health, a no BS Q&A for men? Good news, it'll soon be available as bonus content on Patreon. I fund the show entirely myself, and every new Patreon subscriber literally helps keep it alive and growing. I'm putting everything I've got into making Please Me, so if you've ever thought about supporting the show, now's the time. Join the community for ad-free episodes, early releases, exclusive content, and my eternal gratitude. Huge thanks to everyone who's rated, reviewed, and shared Please Me. Because of you, we're now the #1 sexuality podcast in the US and worldwide. Your support amplifies vital conversations around pleasure, healing, and sexual empowerment. Keep the momentum going, leave a review, share your favorite episode, and help us reach even more listeners. This week, I'm shouting out 5 amazing countries where Please Me hit #1. Tonga, Tajikistan, Tunisia, Thailand, and Panama. Thank you for tuning in and turning up the volume on pleasure. Prefer to read? Subscribe to my newsletter on Substack for exclusive updates and more Please Me related news. Please Me is for mature audiences, so sit back, relax, and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me.
Nervous system has been programmed to believe that shame is good for you, that it keeps you a good girl, and it takes a little bit of reprogramming. It's a process to release that from your nervous system. So this is why it helps, working with other women who are on the same page, who are releasing themselves and freeing themselves from this shame concept that's been pushed by the patriarchy and really accepted by the whole framework, including psychotherapy.
ASN Lifestyle Magazine is your go-to source for sex-positive, sophisticated content covering everything from the swinger lifestyle and adult entertainment to intimacy, wellness, and more. You can read every digital issue for free, and subscribers get access to exclusive content. See the show notes for the link to subscribe and check out their Instagram. I'm excited to share that I now have a monthly column in ASN called Big Clit Energy, a Please Me series. Don't miss it and subscribe today. Hello and welcome to Season 6 of Please Me, the podcast that aims to destigmatize conversations about sex and sexual health by turning the sheets into our classroom. Today, I am so excited to bring on Emma Lyons to the show. She is an expert in the idea of an inner narcissist, which is the voice in your head that sounds like you, but isn't. She teaches her many followers to evict their toxic inner voice. And so with that being said, I just want to welcome Emma to the show. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on, Eve. Great to be here.
I'm super excited to have you on. And this concept of the inner narcissist is something new to me. I haven't heard of this concept before. So I would love for you to sort of explain what that concept means to you.
Okay, well, you haven't heard of it because it's my concept and my idea. And the way that I was brought up in a covert narcissistic home. And I've really suffered from a lot of shaming, internalized shaming from when I was very old. And, we're told by conventional wisdom to sit down and take this so-called inner critic to therapy and feel the shame. And I've done that my whole life and it hasn't moved me forward. And what I realized is that the voice, it ticks every single box of a narcissist, right? It gaslights you. You're too dramatic. That didn't happen. It triangulates. look at you, oh, look at that person, they're doing so much better, you're such a failure. It shames you, it love bombs and devaluates you. It's all worried about what the image and what everything looks like. It's obsessed with appearances, and it projects things on you. Like it says, oh, you look so stupid, oh my God, it projects its own insecurities on you, and it really controls you using fear. Don't do that or you'll die, you'll be ridiculed, you'll look so stupid. It really controls you. So it ticks every single box of the narcissist. But we're told by conventional wisdom that this voice is your friend, it's your protector, that it's trying to keep you safe, when really, just like the narcissist outside, it's actually trying to destroy you, keep you small, keep you locked in, keep you in this self-imposed prison. And the cool thing about it is that this voice, this inner narcissist, as I call it, it has no power other than the power that you give it. It's like a ghost or a shell. It directly feeds, it gets narcissistic supply, so to speak, from every time you perform with it, every time you argue with it. And still, we're told by conventional wisdom to sit down, to take this thing to therapy, to feel the shame. And it's complete gaslighting. This doesn't work. It doesn't work with the narcissist out there, and it doesn't work with the narcissist that's stuck in our heads either. So I developed this concept, and I realized that I figured out a way to really dismantle the power that it extracts from us, so we can really reclaim our voice and live shamelessly. And when I say shamelessly, I mean without shame, reclaiming that real meaning of the word.
I love that you bring up shame, and I want to talk about that in just a minute. But you also mentioned your inner child, right? Or your history, right? Your history of childhood trauma, right? And how that affected you. So I would love to know, how does childhood experiences or dynamics affect our success later in life? And how can you use that concept of the inner narcissist to sort of reclaim your power and to find success?
Well, that's such a great question. When we are abused in whatever way, whether that be, in my case, emotional abuse, I was the scapegoat of my family system. My mother was a covert narcissist, which is something that I didn't know. I thought my family was normal. Or if you're sexually abused or abused in other types of way, what you do is you carry the shame. You carry all the shame for that person. You internalize it, and you create that inner critic. That inner critic becomes very virulent, and it's like, you're stupid, you're ugly. And I internalized all those beliefs. I had all those beliefs since I was a very young child. You're stupid, you're ugly, you're no good, you're a failure, you'll never amount to anything. I really believe that. I believe my body was disgusting, ugly. And those things, if you've been practicing them for your childhood, if you've been living from that shame, they don't just disappear when you turn 18, when you become an adult. They continue, and they affect what kind of relationships you attract. They affect how you feel about yourself and how much self-respect you have for yourself. Because when you're living from this shame place, you attract a very different type of people to you. I've seen people that attract kind of predatory people. So people who attract more abuse, because of this shame that they're carrying. There's some part of them that's like, that you deserve this. So you magnetize those kind of relationships. And like it just exacerbates, it snowballs unless you cut off its supply and take back your power from this thing. So it's everything. The bottom line is, your childhood becomes the template for your adulthood, and what kind of relationships and how you feel about sexuality, how much pleasure you experience in your body. I suffered from, inability to really climax and experience pleasure because of the shaming abuse that I experienced as a child. So these are some things that can go on and affect you until the day you die, until you break up with that thing and really take back your power and just let go of this shame thing. Because shame, it's an implant. It's always about control. If you look at it, it's not like a normal emotion. And it's something that we can cut off the supply to and really reclaim our true self.
You covered so many things there, but I definitely want to dive a little bit more into shame, because shame is
Yes.
something that really, really exists if you've experienced childhood sexual abuse, right? And
Yes.
a lot of times the perpetrator will say, don't tell your parents or don't tell
Oh, yeah.
anybody, already burying, the actual abuse that happened. And so immediately you feel shame. And I know that from my experience, I come from a history of childhood sexual abuse. And so I carried that shame for so many years, and getting rid of that shame was a process that, is multi-layered, and that, I have gradually learned to live with and to eliminate. But if you don't throw that shame and the societal expectations that, we are taught out the window, you are not going to be able to feel fully free and feel fully autonomous and fully sovereign. So I'd love for you to talk about how your concept of the shame being your jailer, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is I love that concept because it really does hold you down, right? It keeps you
Yes.
locked in that
Yes.
jail.
Yes.
So can
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about shame as your jailer and how you use that concept?
100%. Shame is really it's like when we take in shame to ourselves, or when someone projects their shame onto us and we take it in, as we do as little children, because we don't have any defense against that. So we project, we turn it inwards. We're like, okay, we shouldn't talk about it. It's obviously my fault. I'm bad, because mommy or daddy or whoever hurt me. They're doing it because there's something wrong with me, and that is shame 101. And what happens then is that you keep quiet, you keep the secret, but you internalize that abuse against yourself. So you have the inner critic, or the inner narcissist, as I call it, and it says, you can't do that, you can't get up on that stage, you're stupid, you're too ugly, you can't, oh my God, they're going to think your body is disgusting. Oh, it shames you. And then you don't need those people outside to shame you, because you have that voice inside that you've internalized that keeps you down. And the thing about shame is that it's always used about control. It's always used to control people. And we're gaslit by society culturally to believe that shame is good for you. Even linguistically, we're shameless. People who are shameless are behaving badly in a really offensive and derogatory way, even though, a lot of the time they're acting out of repressed shame, or alternatively, they could be really authentic, and it just triggers me. So I'm like, oh my God, they're so shameless and disgusting. And the other one is like shameful, So whether you're damned if you don't have enough shame, and you do, it's like this blind of shame that we're in. And shame is so normalized. It's everywhere. Even people like Brene Brown, who talks about shame. And, I don't know, like there's another guy, John Bradshaw, who has written this amazing book called The Shame That Binds You. They all talk about shame as if it's something normal and natural to human beings. And what I'm saying is that no, that it's not. Shame is an imposition of culture. And particularly in Western culture, it was brought by religion, by the Judeo-Christian culture. It's very shame-laden. If you look at the foundation of our culture, it says, you're a sinner and you have to forgive. Now, again, that's a double bind. How can you ever escape from this idea that you're shameful and disgusting and that you have to forgive yourself? It's like this infinity loop of shame, and you can never get out of it until you break free from shame. And if you look at how shame is used, you'll see that it's always used to control people. Like if I meet a child and he's bothering me or talking, and I shame him to shut him up, I might tell myself, oh, I'm doing that because I want him to behave better and I want him to be better. But no, it's always about the comfort of the shamer. It's never about what's best for the person being shamed. And that's true across the board. When this inner narcissist shames you, it's not protecting you. It's protecting itself. It's doing it to keep its power and to keep you in your little box, to keep you in your little prison, And you don't need anyone outside. You don't need your abuser to be there. You've internalized it, and the abuser, the thing inside your head is saying, you can't do that. Don't get up on that stage. You're ugly. You're fat. Whatever it is, whatever the BS it comes up with, you do, the voice inside, the call is coming from inside the house, so to speak. So we need to get the jailer out so that we can really reclaim our power. And that means recognizing that shame is never good for us. There's never such a thing as healthy shame. And this is the conventional wisdom. Even people like Brene Brown says that without shame, you'd be a psychopath. So there's this undercurrent in our culture that shame is okay, that you need a bit of shame in order to be a good person. Even John Bradshaw, who wrote that book, The Shame That Binds You, he got very close, but he also talks about a thing called healthy shame. Now, how can shame ever be healthy when it's that belief that there's something wrong with you? And that is the blind spot that we get culturally. We're told that shame is good for you, that you need a bit of it in order to keep you in line, either to know to be humble. And you also need shame and guilt in order to recognize that you've done something wrong, when you do not need shame for all of those things. You need empathy. And guess what? Shame, when it takes over your body, and shame actually hijacks your nervous system, it shuts down your ability to empathize. So this is complete gaslighting that we're getting from culture, we're getting from society, that normalizes shame and tells us that we need it and that shame is good for you, that a little bit is good for you, when actually all shame is toxic. And there are cultures that predate, Christianity particularly, where they didn't have this internalized shame that we have in Western culture, this idea that I'm bad. If we look at the Far East, for example, they have a kind of collectivist type of shame that's like, if you step outside what's considered okay for the tribe, then you're bad, or you're shamed for that. But you're not. It's not for who you are, it's for what you've done. So there's a way to remedy that. But the shame that we have in Western culture is, it's like, I'm bad because I am a bad person, I am defective. And that's not something that we can ever remedy. And we're gaslight culturally to believe that that's good for us. But all of these people are speaking from that are making those claims, are conflating guilt and shame, they just think that shame is normal. They just think shame is a universal human feature, when there's actually, this is a very Eurocentric idea, because pre-kind of conquest colonialism, there in cultures that didn't have this pyramidal narcissistic structure, they didn't have this idea of shame. This shame came, it's always about control, like I said. It came from these cultures that were narcissistic, that were top down. And shame is very effective to keep people in the roles. So you don't need someone telling them, you have to stay where you are. People do that to themselves because they've internalized this shame structure. And that's true for all forms of shame, this internalized shame, and also the collectivist shame that I talked about. It's always about keeping people in line, and that you don't need anyone outside to whip them. You've got it inside. People have internalized it. They know their place. Yeah, they know their place, and they're not stepping out of line.
First of all, I want to give you a round of applause because everything that you said is basically, you're describing patriarchy, right? And, and we're taught that, we're as women supposed to be, play small, externally be this beautiful image of ourselves, but never overstep your boundaries, be in a small body. You can't be heavy. You can't, you can't take up space. If you do, then you're shamed for that. We talk about visibility. You talk about visibility, and it's not a mindset issue, right? It's a trauma response. So I definitely want to get into that, and I want to get into it as it relates to, quote unquote, the male gaze, right? Because women are taught that we are supposed to look beautiful, but be quiet, etc. All of what that encompasses. So I would love for you to sort of talk about that a little bit.
Well, yeah, the patriarchy is the crux of it, because, I talk about Ireland because Ireland is where I'm from. And pre kind of Catholicism and the church, women had a higher place in society. They were able to be leaders. And then suddenly when the church came along, and this was before the British came along, women were actually downgraded. They couldn't be leaders anymore. Their bodies were shamed. Sexuality was shamed. And like you said, women were supposed to be seen and not heard, and they were supposed to look pretty and look nice and be a little girl, be quiet, be the wallflower. And this is something that we're taught. This is why much women really have internalized this idea that I have to please, I have to keep them happy. I have to. Much more women than men really suffer from that. Men as well, but women to a deeper degree, because we've been taught we need to satisfy the men. We have to please the men. We have to have a nice body. Women's bodies still. If you go to the pharmacy, you get things for the smell down under. Men don't have any of that. There's been so much shame that's been projected on women collectively. The women have actually been scapegoated culturally by the patriarchy. This thing, I was scapegoated in my family system, but women collectively, we've very clearly been scapegoated as well. So we carry that extra layer of scapegoat energy, because all of the shame that men were carrying around their sexuality, it's women's fault. You have to keep your body down, not be you're too fat, you're too thin, you have too many wrinkles.
You're dressed too provocatively, or you're wearing too short of a skirt, or you're, whatever.
Yeah,
the woman,
absolutely.
The victim is always blamed, right? Continue.
Exactly.
Sorry. Mm-hmm.
And that's narcissistic logic. It's always the victim's fault. It's never us. It's always them. And the world is just very narcissistic right now. It's like narcissistic, the Darvo, if you've heard of that, where you deny and reverse victim offender. This is how narcissists work with their victims, to make the victim, you punch them in the face and then say, oh, look, you made me do it. You were bad. You deserve that. You victimized me. You hurt me first. I had to respond. And you see that playing out collectively with groups like women, where all of that shame is projected on women, and it's women's fault. If you get raped, it's because you asked for it. You were wearing too short a skirt. This is classic narcissistic logic that we're seeing at play. Gaslighting, and it's all designed to make the victim or the scapegoat shrink, to feel like they have no power and there's nothing they can do, and just accept their place and to stay in their box. And it's very, very effective, because you see victims of abuse, of sexual abuse, they shrink themselves. This is what you do. This is what shame does to you. It's not just the belief that I'm defective. It actually physically makes you shrink in your body, and you want to shrink yourself so that you won't be abused again. This is what shame kind of teaches you. So it's very, very effective at keeping people small, and it's worked so well for women. Women have shrunk themselves in order to kind of survive the brutality of the patriarchy. And the patriarchy affects men as well negatively, but women more so, because we've been directly scapegoated for it. And men are affected as well. And it's just the whole world is really messed up, because it's ruled and regulated by these narcissistic systems that create so much dysfunction, not just in family systems, but in everyone. It's the root of so much dysfunction and mental and emotional illness, as well as, it can show physically in the body with physical illness, because when we internalize all this shame, it comes out, needs to come out in some way, needs to express itself. And that can happen in the form of depression, as was my case, or for some people, it can turn out in, some diseases like lupus or things like that.
Right, autoimmune diseases. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Gabor Mate talks about, the correlation between people pleasing and these autoimmune diseases.
100%.
So this isn't something that I've just realized. This is something that's kind of, there's a correlation, and it's not a coincidence. We live in a traumatized world. We are products of that. So we're all carrying that trauma, and the petrol, the gasoline that keeps all this trauma going, it's shame.
So I love that you're talking about the narcissistic society that we live in, and then our internal narcissist or our inner voice that's constantly putting us down, right? And it's unbelievable how terrible. If you write down all of the negative things that you say to yourself and you read it, and then you say, would I say this to anybody? Most of the time, people would say, hell no, I would never say that to anybody. What horrible things are those words? But then you're saying them to yourself. So sometimes we treat ourselves worse than anybody else. And I would love to know, how does breaking up with the inner narcissist that you talk about look like? I love the concept of breaking up with them, like in a relationship, right? Because you are in a relationship with that inner voice, right? And you think it's trying to help you, or it's, I don't know, but sometimes it's so negative that you do need to break up with it and find another better inner voice, right? So tell me how that looks like to you.
Yeah, absolutely. The inner critic, as it's called, it ticks all the boxes of a narcissist, like I said. And often it's very covert. It's like, oh, don't get up on that stage, don't do that thing. I'm just trying to keep you safe. When, as I said before, it's not about that. It's never about you. It's always about them. And we're taught collectively, culturally, that it's about keeping us safe. It's not. That's the first thing. So I do have a system for breaking up with it. And that is, it's break, B-R-E-A-K, right? So the first one is B. You've got to break the trance. And that's recognize that this thing, it's not you. And this is not what we're taught. We're taught that it's you, that it's a wounded part. It's not a wounded part. It's not a wounded child. It's not even you. It's a spell. It's a pattern. It's a trance that we're under. So you've got to catch it, interrupt it. Don't overthink it. Just name it. Recognize that it's a trance. And that naming automatically disrupts the loop without doing anything else. So first of all, that's really important. Inner recognition that it's not you and that it's not trying to protect you. It's like a trance. It's a spell that we're under, okay? Then you go on to R, which is refuse to engage with it. And this, again, is the opposite of what we're taught. We're taught to sit down with this thing, take it to therapy, send love to it. If you have a parasite in your body, you don't send love to it. But we're taught to do this with the parasite that's living inside our body. That's the narcissist that we've internalized. So Dr. Ramani, who's a narcissist expert for narcissists out there in the world, she uses DEEP. So don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, and don't personalize. And that's exactly what we've got to do with this inner narcissist. Just say, not today, bitch. It ain't happening. Just don't try to defend or engage yourself from it. Then you go on to E, which is expose the lie. You want to call out the shame-based programming, oh, my body's fat or whatever it's saying. Recognize that it's about control. This isn't your story. This is inherited shame that you're carrying, and often from the collective, the feminine consciousness, or from your mother, from your parents. This is not true. It's not empirical truth. It's not speaking that truth already disarms its power. Then you come to A, which is anchor your truth. Come back to your body, feel your breath, plant your feet, and say your name and the year, and really remind your nervous system that you're safe, that you're sovereign, and that you're here. Because when shame comes, it's not just a thought, it's a full-on hijack of your body, of your nervous system, the heat that you get, the shrinking. So come back to your body, take back your power. And then finally, K is kick the thing out, shake it off, stomp it out, and recognize, and just say, you can even say it out loud, this is not mine. And this is a really powerful system for, releasing that thing. But the key is to recognize this is not your friend. This is not a wound that you can heal. This is something that you need to just eradicate and release, evict it, because it has no power other than the power that it feeds off you. When you dance for it, when you perform for it, when you try to defend yourself from it, just like with the narcissist out there in the world, you give it energy, you give it fuel, and it gets bigger. And this voice, this inner narcissist, this is the reason why people commit suicide. Think about it. Without this inner, and I've had this voice as well saying, you might as well not be here. Without that voice, nobody commits suicide. Nobody takes that step because you need that resonance. You know, if I come up to you, Eve, and say, you're a Coca-Cola, you're going to think I'm crazy. In order to feel shame, you need to have that narcissist inside that agrees, that says, yes, I am fat, or yes, there's something wrong with me, or yes, I did look like a fool, in order to feel the shame. Otherwise, you're just going to think this is a crazy person and laugh in my face or keep walking, you know? And I was talking to someone recently, and they were talking about when they were a child, you know, they were a little plumper, and this man went up to them and said, you shouldn't be eating the ice cream because you'll get fat. And these girls, they just laughed in his face. But think about how easy it could have been for them to experience shame then, but they did not have the receptor that agreed with them. So they did not experience shame. So breaking up with this shame is possible, but it takes a little bit of work because, you know, we've been practicing this letting this inner narcissist, this jailer, run our lives for 20, 30, 40 years. And it has so much power because you've opened yourself up and given all your power away to it, because we've been gaslit culturally to think this thing is trying to keep us safe, when really it's trying to kill you. It's trying to keep you small, keep you in your box, keep you in your little space. And we've got to reclaim our power loud and proud and say no.
100%. And what was that acronym again?
It's break.
Break. Okay.
Break. So
break. Okay. So I love that so much. It's such a great system, and it sounds a lot like somatic work, right? You're like breaking the nervous system, like pathways that are negative, and you're creating new neural pathways. And so we've talked about this on the show in the past. And, you know, our nervous system is basically taught to do certain behaviors, right? And every time you do that behavior, it creates that pathway to your brain. Like, this is the behavior I do, and this is the pathway. And each time you do that same behavior, it strengthens that pathway, that neural pathway. And if you are constantly telling yourself negative things, guess what? That neural pathway is going to get really strong and really big, and you're going to constantly be talking negatively to yourself. And so this is where that rumination and that, you know, possible like suicidal ideation comes from, that you're constantly feeding by taking in that negativity and that shame and internalizing it, right? So how do we change our nervous system to think about different things, to really move on from that negative internal narcissist and move on to a healthier pathway?
Well, the system that I just spoke, taking yourself through that whenever shame strikes, is really powerful. You've got to be aware. The key is to be aware that shame is useless, that it's no good for you, that it's not natural, that it's not normal, that it's not actually human, that it's an imposition of the, like you said, the patriarchy about keeping people in their spaces. It's become, once you recognize that, you reclaim your shameless. Because like I said, shameless is a slur. Oh my God, she's so shameless. She's acting like a slut. It means that I'm offended by what you're doing because it triggers me. But we want to reclaim our shameless and recognize that shame is not natural. It's not who I am. It's an implant. It's always about control. So stop shaming other people and stop shaming yourself. And, you know, it takes a little bit of work because, you know, especially if you're trying to do it on your own. I have a group that I work with, where I work with a lot of women and help them really reclaim their shameless, is the name of my program. And when you're working collectively, it really adds to that energy and makes it more easier for you to really establish that new baseline. But, you know, you've got to recognize that shame is not normal, that it has no power without you. That's the thing, because we've been taught that when you experience shame, it's real. Oh my God, I'm experiencing shame. It's so real. I need to shrink. I need to stop doing what I'm doing. No, recognize that that's shame, that's internalized control system. That's the patriarchy that you've internalized in order to survive in a toxic, narcissistic patriarchy. And it was about survival then, but we can reclaim our shameless now and say no to it. And, you know, it takes a bit of repatterning, like you said, working with the nervous system. A lot of work around shame It's about, like I said, most people that are talking about shame now, even people like Brene Brown, are speaking from inside the cage of shame. They're teaching people how to polish the cage, how to feel comfortable with shame, when really you need to open the freaking door and step outside, spread your wings, you know? So I completely disagree with that approach. And it's possible for everyone. Recognize that it's possible for you. You don't have to tolerate shame. And just because you've been tolerating shame for 30, 40, 50, whatever amount of years, you can stop it, but you've got to reprogram and rewire, not just your mind. It's because this isn't just a mindset issue. This is your nervous system. Your nervous system has been programmed to believe that shame is good for you, that it keeps you good girl. And it takes a little bit of a reprogramming. It's a process to release that from your nervous system. So this is why it helps, working with other women who are on the same page, who are releasing themselves and freeing themselves from this shame concept that's been pushed by the patriarchy and really accepted by the whole framework, including psychotherapy. I believe that shame is at the root of so many dysfunctions that we have, including addictions, bipolar. It's in so many things you can trace them back to internalized shame. And even
Absolutely.
Things like self-sabotage, people having problems with climax, it's all internalized shame. Your nervous system has been programmed to believe that it's not safe. So it's trying to keep control. And it's not just about what you say to yourself. You've got to work with the whole body. So working
Absolutely.
with the whole nervous system to release it. So doing somatic work is really helpful, and consciously, not feeling the shame, but you can consciously tune in and release that shame. And that's what I do with people when I work with my groups. I help them release the shame. Once you recognize that it's no good, that it's not your friend, you can actually let that go. And it almost sounds too simple, but so many people were carrying so much generational shame that it takes a while. It's a process. And like I said, we're also carrying the shame of the collective feminine, and this is why Eckhart Tolle talks about that in The Power of Now, the pain body, period pain. This is the collective kind of feminine pain body from being shamed so much, throughout history.
Absolutely. And I want to because this conversation is just so juicy and I want to get really deep into it with you, I am going to end this half of the podcast because we are going to do a part 2 because we have just so much more to talk about. And I have so many more questions in front of me that I definitely want to ask you and discuss. So you mentioned your group. So I would love for you to just tell us where you can find that group, this portion of the podcast. And then part 2, we'll discuss more about where we can connect with you as well. But tell us where we can find that group since you brought it up.
Well, yeah, I have it's a group where I work with people. It's a 5-6 week program where I take people through the process for releasing shame and also work with them individually and collectively to release. Really, I focus a lot on shame because I believe shame is at the root of so many dysfunctions, and it's a cocktail of fear and disgust and self-loathing and so many things. It's so much more than just the belief that I'm not enough. Shame is so much more than that, and it's so much more. So the work that I do is about really disconnecting people from shame, and my program really takes people through a system to release that. And taking them, and I also have a free gift for people. So it's about 5 signs that it's time to break up with your inner narcissist. So this is really the place to start if you're recognizing and raising your hand that you have this parasite inside your head and you're ready to break up with it. This free gift is really made for you, and it's got the 5 signs, the classic signs that this narcissist has got a hold of your life and it's keeping you stuck in shame. And it also has some solutions. So you can find that at tinyurl.com/nottodayNarc, NARC, like a narcissist. So this is the place to really start breaking up with that. And the awareness is so important because shame is at the root of so many things that are really keeping us small and stuck and stuck in our sexuality as well, Eve. But not just in our sexuality, keeping us sabotaging, stuck in perfectionism, procrastination, all of these things. People treat them as the problem, but really, you can trace them all back to shame.
And not allowing ourselves to be connected with our body, to really truly express our true sensuality and to really accept pleasure. So tinyurl.com, not today narc, is where she said that her information for her freebie is. So check that out. And again, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. This has been an amazing conversation with you, and I can't wait to get into part 2. So if you're out there listening, make sure that you tune into part 2. You can find me, as always, on pleaseme.online. And I just want to announce that as of yesterday, and I know that's this, depending on when you listen to this episode, it may be months from now or whatever. But as of yesterday, my show was the #1 sexuality podcast in the United States, which is the largest podcast network in the world, and also in the world. So Please Me is #1 in the world, in every country you can think of, in Great Britain, in South Africa, in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, China. The list goes on and on, even United Emirates, Morocco, Muslim countries, which is mind-blowing to me that people are listening to this sexuality and sexual health podcast. So I want to thank everybody that has been listening to the show, that has been sharing the show, that has been rating the show. Please continue to do so, because it allows us to really transmit this information all around the world and help more people. So again, thank you so much, and please continue to leave reviews. Until next time. I want to personally invite you to join me on Patreon for ad-free listening, bonus episodes, and early releases. Already there is a lot of bonus content on there, with many webinars that I've done in the past and a show that I've never released to the public before. My show is completely self-funded, and when you are able to support me in this way, I'm able to spread my message of body positivity, self-love, and women's empowerment, and empowerment in general around sexuality around the globe. And so with that being said, I appreciate everyone who has already joined Patreon. And if you've thought about joining, now's your nudge to do so. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.